The scent of 3,000 white peonies filled the air of the Sterling estate, but to me, it smelled like a funeral. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror in the bridal suite, draped in a custom Vera Wang gown that cost more than my first apartment. Outside, the Atlantic Ocean crashed against the private cliffs of the Hamptons. My wedding was the event of the season, the merger of the century, the tabloids called it. The self-made tech prodigy, Chloe Vance, marrying the golden boy of the Sterling dynasty, Sebastian Sterling. You look acceptable. A cold voice clipped from the doorway. I didn't have to turn around to know it was Eleanor Sterling, my future mother-in-law. She stood there in champagne silk, clutching a glass of vintage wine as if it were a weapon. The necklace, Chloe. She sighed, walking toward me. She reached out and adjusted the diamond collar around my neck, a Sterling family heirloom. Try not to look so new to money. You're representing a name that goes back to the Mayflower. Your software apps might have bought you a seat at the table, but they didn't buy you class. I forced a smile, the one I had practiced for 3 years. I'll try my best, Eleanor. See that you do. Sebastian is a prince. He deserves a consort, not a business partner. She patted my cheek, a gesture that felt more like a slap, and swept out of the room. I took a deep breath. I loved Sebastian. Or at least, I thought I did. He was charming, he was supportive when my company Vance Logic went public, and he was the first man who didn't seem intimidated by my success. Or so I believed. The betrayal didn't come with a bang. It came with a vibrating phone. The night before the wedding, the rehearsal dinner, everyone was buzzing with champagne. I had stepped out onto the balcony of the estate to get some air. The guest wing was quiet. I was about to head back in when I heard voices from the library below. It's a bitter pill to swallow, Sebastian, I know. Eleanor's voice was unmistakable. It's not bitter, Mother. It's necessary, Sebastian replied. His voice, it wasn't the warm, soulful tone he used with me. It was clinical. Cold. The Sterling Group is hemorrhaging cash. The London investments failed. If we don't get the capital injection from Chloe's IPO by the end of the quarter, we lose the estate. We lose everything. My heart stopped. My IPO? My company's public offering money was meant for expansion, for the charity foundations I had built. But to marry her? Eleanor scoffed. A girl from a suburban public school? A girl whose father was a mechanic? The mechanic's daughter is worth $400 million, Mother. Sebastian snapped. Once the marriage papers are signed tomorrow, the prenup I had my lawyers sneak into the stack, the one she'd think is just standard procedure, gives me co-CEO status. I'll liquidate her majority shares within 6 months. By next summer, Chloe Vance will be a memory with a nice divorce settlement, and the Sterling name will be restored. And what about Isabella? Eleanor asked, her voice softening. Isabella is waiting for me in Paris, Sebastian whispered. I could almost hear the smile in his voice. Once the dust settles and I have the Vance fortune, I'll marry the woman I actually love. Chloe is just a very expensive bridge I have to cross. I leaned against the stone railing, my vision blurring. Every I love you, every late-night talk about our future children, every moment I thought I was being seen for me. It was all a script. I wasn't his bride. I was his capital injection. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run into that library and throw my engagement ring in his face. But as I looked at the dark ocean, a cold, hard clarity washed over me. My father, the mechanic they mocked, had taught me how to fix broken engines. When a machine is failing, Chloe, he used to say, don't just kick it. Find the pressure point. Wait for the right moment, then dismantle it. I didn't cry. I went back to my room. I sat at my laptop, the same laptop that had built an empire, and I began to work. I called my lead counsel, Marcus. Marcus, I need you to pull the Sterling merger file. Yes, the one Sebastian's lawyers sent. Look at the subclauses in the joint assets section. 10 minutes later, Marcus whistled over the phone. Chloe, this is a trap. If you sign this, you're giving him legal power of attorney over your personal holdings in the event of any marital discord. It's a legal heist. Can we flip it? I asked, my voice as sharp as a diamond. What do you mean? Sebastian thinks he's playing me. He thinks I'm the naive girl who's so blinded by his old money charm that I won't read the fine print. I want you to draft a counter-amendment. We're going to use the addendum trick. Attach it to the back of the final marriage certificate. If he signs it, he's not getting my money. He's actually acknowledging a personal debt to Vance Logic for the exact amount of the wedding costs and the Sterling Group's current deficit. Chloe, that's $1 billion move, Marcus breathed. But he'll never sign it if he reads it. He won't read it, I said, looking at my reflection. He's too arrogant to think I'd ever fight back. And that brought me back to the mirror. 3 hours before the ceremony. The wedding was a spectacle. 600 guests, high-profile politicians, celebrities, and the creme de la creme of the Hamptons. The flowers alone cost $500,000. I walked down the aisle to a string quartet playing Wagner. Sebastian stood at the altar, looking like a dream in a bespoke tuxedo. He flashed me that signature smile, the one that used to make my knees weak. Now, it just made me want to vomit. Eleanor sat in the front row, looking like a queen mother, nodding at her friends as if she had successfully hunted a rare prize. The priest began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I looked around. My staff was there, my friends from the tech world, and Sebastian's friends, the vultures who were waiting for my money to save their failing portfolios. The vows, the priest said. Sebastian took my hands. His palms were sweaty. He began his rehearsed speech about two worlds becoming one, and finding his soulmate in the most unexpected places. It was beautiful. It was a masterpiece of lies. Then it was my turn. The microphone was handed to me. The crowd went silent, waiting for the emotional "I do" from the girl who had won the Sterling lottery. I looked at Sebastian. I looked at the diamonds around my neck, the diamonds that didn't belong to me, and soon wouldn't belong to him either. Sebastian, I started, my voice steady, echoing through the speakers. You said that today, two worlds become one. You said that you saw me as your equal, your partner, your savior. Sebastian smiled, nodding. But what you forgot to mention, I continued, my voice dropping an octave, was the price tag you put on my head. You forgot to mention Isabella in Paris. And you forgot to mention that the only reason you're standing here today is because your family is bankrupt. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the wind rustling the silk ribbons on the pews. Sebastian's smile didn't just fade. It evaporated. Chloe, what are you talking about? You're just nervous, honey. The heat. I'm not nervous, Sebastian, I said, turning to the audience. I'm the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I don't get nervous about business deals. And that's all this was to you, wasn't it? A business deal. I reached into the hidden pocket of my Vera Wang gown, the one I had asked the tailor to add specifically for this moment. I pulled out a small, high-definition digital recorder. Let's hear it from the groom himself, shall we? I pressed play. The mechanic's daughter is worth $400 million, mother. Chloe is just a very expensive bridge I have to cross. Sebastian's voice boomed over the high-end sound system, crystal clear, reaching every corner of the estate. Eleanor stood up, her wine glass shattering on the marble floor. Sebastian turned the color of ash. The high society guests began to murmur, then gasp, then whisper furiously. You recorded me? Sebastian hissed, his face contorting into something ugly. I'm a tech founder, Sebastian, I whispered, loud enough for the mic to catch. Did you really think I didn't know how to handle a bug in the system? I turned back to the priest. I think we can skip the I do's, but there is one thing I'd like Sebastian to sign before I leave. I pulled out the addendum, the legal trap I had set. See, Sebastian, I've already paid for this entire wedding. The flowers, the catering, the security. I've also quietly bought out the debt of the Sterling Group this morning. I own your house. I own your cars. I own the chair your mother is sitting on. I leaned in, my eyes burning into his. Now you can sign this paper, acknowledging the debt, or I can walk out of here and file for fraud, identity theft, and corporate espionage. Either way, you're finished. But if you sign, I might just let your mother keep her favorite teapot. The crowd was in an uproar. Cameras were flashing. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. It was a public execution. The altar, which was supposed to be the beginning of my happily ever after, had transformed into a courtroom. The guests, the same people who had looked down their noses at me for being new money, were now frozen in their seats, their mouths agape. Sebastian looked like he was suffocating. The bespoke silk tie around his neck seemed to be tightening like a noose. His eyes darted from the legal document in my hand to the high-definition recorder on the podium. "Chloe, you're making a scene," he hissed, his voice trembling with a mixture of rage and desperation. "This is private. We can talk about this in the study. Don't throw away the sterling reputation over a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I laughed, and the sound echoed through the silent estate like a thunderclap. "You called me a bridge, Sebastian. You called me an ATM. The only thing private about this is the secret bank account you used to funnel money to your mistress in Paris. But guess what? My security team is better than your legal team. I know about the apartment in the 16th arrondissement. I know about the wire transfers." Eleanor, his mother, finally found her voice. She stood up, her face a mask of aristocratic fury. "You common spiteful girl. How dare you humiliate my son in his own home? Guards, remove her. This wedding is over." "Actually, Eleanor," I said, turning to her with a chilling calmness, "it's my home now. Did you think I was just sitting in the bridal suite doing my makeup? While you were busy criticizing my class, I was finalizing the acquisition of the sterling debt. I bought the mortgage on this very estate 2 hours ago. As of 10 a.m. this morning, I am the landlord. So if anyone is being removed, it won't be me." The gasp that went through the crowd was audible. The sterling pride was being dismantled, brick by brick, in front of the very people they had tried so hard to impress. I held out the pen, a custom-made fountain pen, a gift Sebastian had given me for our anniversary. The irony was delicious. "Sign it, Sebastian," I said, acknowledging the debt, acknowledging that every penny spent on your lifestyle for the last year was a loan from Vance Logic. "Sign it, and I'll give you 24 hours to pack your things and leave quietly. Refuse, and the police waiting at the gate will be invited in to discuss the corporate espionage charges I've already prepared." Sebastian looked at the audience. He saw the cameras. He saw his business rivals smirking. He saw his mother collapsing back into her chair, her world of tea parties and social standing crumbling into dust. With shaking hands, he took the pen. His signature, usually so bold and arrogant, was a jagged, desperate scrawl. He signed away his pride. He signed away his future. "There," he spat, throwing the pen at my feet. "Are you happy now? You've ruined us. You've destroyed a legacy." "No, Sebastian," I said, stepping closer, my voice low so only he could hear. "I didn't destroy it. You spent it. I just turned the lights on so everyone could see the empty room. I didn't stay for the reception. I didn't stay for the cake that cost $10,000. I turned my back on the altar. I began to walk down the long, white-carpeted aisle. But this time, I wasn't walking toward a man. I was walking toward my freedom. As I passed the rows of guests, I saw Isabella, the mistress Sebastian had invited to the wedding, disguised as a family friend. She was pale, clutching her designer clutch, as if it were a life raft. I stopped for a brief second. "He's all yours now, Isabella," I whispered. "Just a heads up, though, he's broke. I hope you've been saving your own money." The walk back out of the estate was the most empowering moment of my life. I felt the weight of the diamonds around my neck. I reached up, unclasped the sterling heirloom, and handed it to the head of security. "Put this in a box and send it to the nearest auction house," I told him. "The proceeds will go to the Small Business Grant for Women. If the Sterlings want their history back, they can bid for it like everyone else." I reached the black SUV waiting at the gate. My father was sitting in the front seat. He had stayed out there, knowing I didn't need a man to walk me down the aisle. I needed a witness to my strength. "You okay, kiddo?" he asked, his rough, grease-stained hand patting mine. "Better than okay, Dad," I smiled. "I just fixed a very broken machine." The headlines the next day were brutal. The tech queen topples the sterling crown. The billion-dollar breakup. Sebastian and Eleanor were forced to sell their London assets to pay back the debt they owed my company. They moved into a modest townhouse, a place Eleanor refused to leave because she couldn't bear the neighbors seeing her without a chauffeur. Isabella vanished the moment she realized there was no Vance fortune coming her way. Sebastian became a cautionary tale in the Hamptons, a man who tried to play the smartest woman in the room and lost everything. As for me, Vance logic reached new heights. I didn't just build software anymore. I built a foundation for women who had been told they weren't enough for the boardrooms or the high society tables. I kept the wedding dress, not out of nostalgia, but as a trophy. Sometimes, I look at it and remember that the most beautiful thing I wore that day wasn't the silk or the lace. It was the truth. Never let someone's family name or social status make you feel small. A name is just a label, but your hard work and your brain are your armor. People will try to use your success to fuel their own failures, but remember, you are the CEO of your own life. Never sign a contract or a marriage license without reading the fine print of a person's soul. I sat on the balcony of my new penthouse, looking out at the New York skyline. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I was powerful. But it made me wonder, if you found out the person you were about to marry was only using you for your hard-earned money, would you humiliate them publicly like I did? Or would you walk away quietly and let karma do the work? Tell me your revenge plan in the comments. I'm reading every single one.